I don't want to lower my standards. Sis, ain't nobody asking you to lower your standards. But what you should do is stop confusing standards with preferences and get realistic about your social currency in the dating market. Ooh, let's get in it. Hey beautiful, my name is Jumoke Win and I'm one half of Win at Love. And if you think that dating means lowering your standards, then this video is going to clear up that misconception. But before we continue, make sure that you do like, subscribe, and you hit that bell so that you can continue to get more great notifications. Because by the end, you'll understand the difference between keeping standards high and aligning preferences with reality. So let's be clear about what we're actually saying here. Standards are non-negotiables. Those things are like character traits, right? Values and how he treats you. We should always keep those high. You should never compromise on those things, on his character, his values, if you guys have similar values, and how he treats you. I mean, if a man is tall, dark, and handsome but treats you like trash, that's silly, right? But preferences are physical and circumstantial. These things are things like height, income, looks, job title, past, things like, does he have kids? You know, what happened in his past? These things really need reality checks based on your actual dating market value. Okay, so think about standards like a pizza, right? You have a pizza and then preferences are the individual toppings. You can't chase after your favorite toppings without having a pizza established first. So when women say things like, oh, don't lower my standards, or I don't want to lower my standards, they're usually just defending unrealistic preferences, not actual character, value, how he treats you, those types of standards. Okay, so here's the reality. Okay, let's crunch some numbers. Let's say you want a man who's 6 feet and taller. Fair. That's 13% of men. And that's not, because some women want higher than 6 feet. 6 feet is like the bare minimum, but they think that is 50% of men. No, it's 13% of men. Okay. Now you want a man who's making at least 6 figures. Okay. Let's take that 13% and shrink it even more. Okay. And we're not even adding Christian. We're not even adding unmarried. Okay. Sometimes you really have to crunch the numbers, look into it, even consult AI, and start to put in what you want and the preferences that you're chasing and really see how many of those men actually exist. Because the reality is that you might be chasing the top 10%, 5%, or even 1% of men while you yourself might be average, right? Now, average, I know that gets a bad rep, but average doesn't necessarily mean bad. It doesn't mean bad. Everyone is not the top 1%, right? Average people can come together and create beautiful marriages, raise godly children, and build generational wealth. There's nothing wrong with that. A man who is average in looks, average in income, you might be just the same, may even be middle class, average, right? So the problem is when average women are thinking that they're too good for average men. See, that's where the issue comes in, because you have to understand that water seeks its own level, and who you attract is your level. So if you keep attracting the same type of man just with a different face, and you don't want that type of man, well, that's the feedback about who you are and how you're showing up. If you keep attracting men who are of similar attraction, you're probably at that level. If you're attracting men of a similar class, you're probably at that level. You're probably positioned in that type of class. They're identifying you as someone who's in their own class. If you are always attracting men who have a certain income, again, you know, like what you think might be the baseline is not actually the baseline. Okay. And most women have been told so much that everyone is a 10, you're a queen, don't settle. And this really creates a lack of social awareness, because you might think that you're all the way up here and all of men are all the way down there. But how you show up matters. Looks matter. How you conduct yourself matters. Communication with men matters. And you can't sit here and keep saying things like, oh, men should just take me as I am. and then wonder why quality men aren't interested. Because if you want a man who's just going to take you as you are, there are a lot of men who will take you as you are, but you don't want them. And it doesn't make sense to chase after men who don't want you, who don't see you on their level, even though you think you're on their level, and then you wonder why you're still single, right? So we have to also be socially aware of our own derogatory marks when it comes to the dating market. For example, if you have certain past relationships, especially sexual relationships, if you have past promiscuity, you know, you're over a certain age, you're divorced, you have kids out of wedlock. This idea of I'm settling, right? You're not really settling when a good man chooses you. You're not settling if an average man chooses you. You both are on each other's level and should choose each other. But this idea of it doesn't matter what I got going on, I deserve the top 1% of men. Why? Right? Why doesn't that top 1% of man deserve the top 1% of women, or deserve someone that he deems in his own league? Okay, so all this to say, our program is going to help you understand your actual social currency and position yourself accordingly so that you can get married sooner rather than later. All right. So just a quick recap. Okay. We're not asking you, or I'm not asking you, to lower your standards, to accept bad treatment from men, or to settle for someone who is harmful. We're not saying that. That's settling, right? You don't got to settle for someone who sucks, right? Someone who treats you badly, poorly, who's not a Christian, who's not a godly man. No one is saying that. But what I am saying is, and what I'm asking you to do, which is more wise, is to align your preferences with the reality. How many of those men actually exist? Understand your own social currency and understand what you're asking for and what you're offering, right? And I would also say stop trying to chase the top 10%, 1% of men, or you think you're chasing them or just idolizing them, but you want to offer average value. And then I also want to encourage you ladies that where you're at, you can still have a successful marriage and it can be amazing. If you marry someone who is at your level, right? Maybe you're middle class, you marry someone who's middle class, you have a child, maybe out of wedlock, that person has a child out of wedlock, you guys come together, God can sanctify your union, right? We don't have to keep chasing we don't have to keep chasing the wind, all right? In our program, it helps you to attract your actual level while improving your value, not lowering your standards. Okay. Now, my husband and I, we got women from single to wifey with faith and strategy. So make sure that you do hit the link in the description box to learn how to stand out as a wife in a world full of girlfriends. So that's all I have to say. Make sure you leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this video, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.